Okay, let's try this again. What is up, everybody? It's your boy, Sebastian, coming back to YouTube. I know it's been a long time since I've uploaded on this channel. Very long time. Been extremely busy behind the scenes. Been doing a lot of stuff for some friends, trying to get my own shit together. Not a lot else to really say about that. But I'm in a position now where I feel like I can come back to YouTube and kind of just committed to making videos for anybody and anyone that wants to watch. I'm not expecting this much at the moment. And if you like what you see, subscribe. And yeah, that's it. So there's my shitty intro. The reason I had that let's try this again is because I recorded a bit already and noise gate was cutting me off, so I readjusted and we should be okay now. Anyways, that aside, let's get right into the good shit. So for today, we're mixing some free tracks that are on the internet on the Cambridge Institute website or whatever. Decided to just pick something at random. Song sounded cool, and I got some plugins on Black Friday that I wanted to test out, so I figured this would be a cool opportunity to make a video and try out some new plugins. So yeah, bear with me. Some of them are newer to me than some of the other ones, and I may not know how to use them as good yet. So if I'm kind of fumbling around trying to figure it out, I'm learning just as much as you guys are on this first instance. So we got this black metal track, and please forgive me, I don't remember the name of the band or the song. I will link them below so you can check out their music. And everything is raw. I'm gonna try to avoid as much samples as I possibly can on this mix, so that I can keep it as natural on the drums as possible. They did provide a snare sample. They did not provide a kick sample. I have that there just in case, I need to use it, but I'm going to try to avoid to. And this is how this sounds raw. So not bad. Actually pretty impressed with the way these came out, because some of the tracks on the Cambridge side are pretty bad. But whoever did it, and this one did a good job. I did reamp the guitars. I did not particularly like the guitar tone. This is, I believe, the Gojira plugin. And what's funny is that the guy from Emperor Ishin, I don't know how to fucking say his name right, but great guitar player. He had a preset on there. It was like a black metal set. I popped it in, and I actually really liked what I heard, so I just tweaked a little bit, maybe like the mic position or something, and just bounced it down to the tracks. So let's jump into it. Okay, so your boy be having mad difficulties and fuck ups. So before we begin, I just had to fix a few things. I just realized that I wasn't capturing the plugins. I don't know what the fuck was going on with that. I fixed it. We should be okay now. So I'll keep this as short and sweet as I possibly can. I don't want to bore you guys too much, but just know that the next phase of the mixing process, which is filtering and gating. I usually take about half an hour to about 20 minutes just doing that. And then balancing with just faders can take up to an hour, but I'm going to try to make it fast and shit like that. I'll probably break this up into parts, like gating, filtering, and then balancing with just faders, and then, you know, moving on and shit like that. So the reason you're seeing this on your screen is because I literally just finished it. I don't want to re-record it, but we should be on Studio One now. And let's see what we got. So I soloed all the fucking drums. Like I said earlier, I usually start with gating and filtering. So I like to filter with an SSL style plugin. Excuse me. And so that's what I did. So with the kick drum, I usually do like around 40 hertz, 50 hertz, depending on the craziness of the double kicks and shit. Feels like a more rock track, it'd be lower, but whatever. I gated them. This is a new plugin. Like I mentioned, I picked up some new plugins on Black Friday. This being one of them. This is super sick. This is the sickest gate I've ever heard for drums specifically. And it sounds like this. This is kick in. Mind you, I don't know if this is a kick sampler or not, but I don't think so because there's bleed. But hear that again. Okay, there's like no bleed. But if I take it off, you can ever so slightly hear like a snare drum just kind of poking through. And I mean, that's amazing. Whoever recorded that, that's amazing. Like, that's insanely good. And they either did some pre-processing, I'm not entirely sure, but that's ridiculously good track. But the cool thing about this is that it lets you gate, and it lets you I mean, the way this works is that, I mean, this filters out everything below this point, and this filters out everything above this point, and this is like the release of the tail. But I mean, typically you would see like a swell here, and then you can adjust this to add as much of the tail of the kick drum as you want, or any drum really. But you can tell there's no swell because this guy gated the shit out of it. Like, this is about as high. You can kind of see some stuff poking through here, but like you just don't hear it. But typically there would be like a big waterfall here on the spectrograph, but this guy gated it. So see, there it is. So you don't have to do it, but I did it anyway. So I gated the kick in and the kick out the same way. Now this has a drum leveler built into the plugin. If you guys don't know what drum leveler is, it's a really cool plugin. It lets you take your hits from any source and even them out. So if you got a hit that's from here and you got a hit that's here, it's going to even it out without compression. I mean, I don't want to get into the details of it. It is compression, but it doesn't sound like compression. It's just one of those plugins that's kind of audio magic. You put it on and it sounds extremely natural, no artifacts, doesn't sound like compression. It literally just takes your soft hits, your hard hits, or your and then kind of puts them into an area where they're more closer to each other. And for metal, since I decided to do with these drums as much as I could without samples, that's invaluable, because the point of doing samples is to make hits typically more consistent, as well as adding stuff in that you feel like you may be missing. And a lot of the times for some people, at least for me, that would be adding the click to the kick drums and shit, but this sounds pretty good as it is. But I got a kick sample track here just in case you guys, or in case I need it. But I have a feeling I don't have to do that. So, like I said, filtering at 40 hertz. This is my kick bus channel, and I have Waves analog desk bullshit NLS going. Since I don't have the Slate one, I'm using the SSL console on this. And I did the same thing with the snare. I gated it, and then I filtered it out to 100. Now, there's a school of thought saying that you need to be in linear phase when you do the filtering. I kind of do a hybrid approach with the snare and the kick. I use SSL style filtering. And then with the toms, I will use, fab filter with sorry, that something was up there. What's going on with that plugin? I will use an fab filter with linear phase, as well as the hi-hat and ride. The hi-hat I'm filtering up all the way to 700 because there's a bunch of junk I don't want down there. Same thing with the ride. All the stuff below this point is stuff I feel I don't need. Depending on the song, it can be higher or even lower. I've seen some guys go up to 1,000. This song is kind of fast. There are a lot of blast beats, so that adds a lot of buildup in the regions that I'm not looking to add, and so I take it out. Now, the exception to this is the overheads. If you guys know who Jordan Valeriot is, he has a fantastic program called Hardcore Mixing. I took it. I learned so much from that course, and he goes up really high. He goes up to like 500, 700, sometimes even 1,000. And then I've heard him say that he'll filter up to 1,000 hertz, duplicate it so that he can kind of fill in and double the volume, and then use that as a cymbal track specifically. I look at overhead mics as purely cymbal mics, but in this instance, I'm trying a little something different than I normally would, and I'm going to try to leave some, if not the majority of the snare in the overheads intact, because I keep saying, I want to try and mix these drums as naturally as possible while still sounding brutal as fuck. I'm challenging myself here. I may or may not accomplish it, and if I need to, I'm gonna filter it out, but we'll give it a go. So for now, I decided to go with 200 hertz. Now, for the new guys here that are kind of have questions in their head as to why I'm doing all that filtering, it's to make room for my bass drum and kick drum, or excuse me, my bass and my kick drum. All of that stuff has bleed in the other tracks from the kick drum, and then the room tracks and all that have kick drum. And I want my kick low end to be clear and punchy, and all of that extra junk down there will muddy it up. So I'm removing all that stuff so that I can let my kick drum breathe. And plus, it makes a ton of room for my bass guitar when I come down to it. And moving on to bass filtering. Again, SSL, the go-to for me. I usually filter around 60 hertz for bass guitar. I have a DI and a DI amp. I like to take the high end from the the bass amp. So I usually cut it 500 hertz and below off the bass amp. And I love the low end from DI bass guitars. So I cut everything from 500 and above on the bass DI. And then I kind of blend these two together to get one uniform sound before I start processing on the bass bus itself. And I forgot to mention that these need to be in linear phase, because you will get some freaky deaky sounds, some weirdness going on when you do that much of extremes. Guitars, I have it at 80 hertz. You want to leave some low end in the guitars, but just remove enough to make room for your bass guitar. Lead guitars, you can be more extreme. You can have it up to 100. That's usually where I go. Synths, I have it. I did it just to the point where. Let's find a section here. Where all of that is out. Those low mids, I kind of don't. Maybe I could add them in. Let's hear that actually. Yeah, I mean, that shouldn't be too bad. And then this was extreme, very much. All of that, don't need it, gone. Then you're left with this. I mean, some people feel like you need it, but to get clear metal mixes, you need a gut. Pretty much everything on the low end from all the other tracks, except your bass and kick. And then vocals, I usually cut around 100 hertz. And it's the same thing for the double, 100 hertz. And for the left and right vocal stereo tracks, I typically do a little bit higher, but I left him at 100 hertz. He doesn't have a particularly boomy voice, so I felt like I didn't have to do that. I forgot to turn this on. Wait, did I do it? Do I have it on there? Yeah, I do. And these are all my effects. This is nothing we have to worry about now, but I'm an old school approach to effects, which is you send your tracks via sends to designated channels that have effects already on them, similar to Chris Lord Algae. If you've heard of him, check out some of his videos. He does this method, and I also learned it from Jordan Valeriot's courses. This is how he does it, and I found that I get a greater amount of control, separation, and clarity using the effects this way than I would if I had put them and instantiated them solely and directly on the channels itself. And lastly but not least, on the main fader, my master bus, I have an SSL compressor. Whoa, what happened here? SSL compressor. Oh, didn't realize I had that. Custom console emulation. With some tape emulation. All right, so that's filtering, gating, done. Now let's get to the meat and potatoes of mixing. All right, so we're gonna go ahead and start balancing these tracks. This is, I spent a considerable amount of time in this section, and I mean like a considerable amount of time, like sometimes up to like a fucking hour. Don't shirk this part. I really don't. Your balance of your faders and panning will literally be like 80% of your mix. Now a quick note on panning. I'm a very much an LCR guy. Very much that way. The only times I don't do that are very few exceptions in the mix. That would be toms and hi-hat, and I think that's it. And then and lead guitars. Sometimes I pan them in 50, Um, and that's it. And I'll give you an example. So toms, I have it at 82, 80, 45 on tom 2. So 82 here, 45 here, and then like the floor tom is like at 80. Actually, I can bring this one in a little bit. Actually, let's do like 75. And I'll give you a tom roll so you can hear it. So you can hear it going left to right. I'm a 100% drummer's perspective. I can't stand mixes that are audience perspective. Maybe it's because I'm a musician and I always see myself playing the fucking thing. You know what I mean? Like I'm always playing the fucking drums and shit. So when I hear tom rolls, like I'm like air drumming, and it's like, you know, I have to have it like that. I can't do it any other way. But that's really it. I mean, kick, snare right up the middle, obviously, bass right up the middle, guitars LCR left and right completely. Same thing with the leads. These are already stereo tracks, so I don't have to do anything. And then wide stereo vocals. I will note that I do bring in, let's see, what plugin is it? Is it this one, Binaural Pan? Yes, it is. So I picked this up from Kohler Studios, a guy that mixed up Boarded and a bunch of other sick death metal bands. He brings the drums in after panning slightly in to make room for the super wide guitars and everything else on the sides, while still having the drum sound really big. So this is a native plugin to Studio One, but I'm sure that there's other stereo with control plugins, like the Waves one. I think Waves has like a stereo thing. It's like S1 or some shit like that. Oh, I have no idea what that is. Anyways, so I'm gonna solo the drums and we'll get started. Oh, I'll mention quickly here. I have a parallel drum compression bus. I typically don't use it on extreme styles, but if I have it there just in case I need it. So once we get to the EQing and compression phase, if I need to use it, you'll see me bring it up. So I like to start with all of these zeroed out. Typically, I like my toms, kick, and snare to all hit around the same level. So let me see where we're at. See, that's kind of crazy. So I'll drop that down a little bit. All right, so toms are hitting around -12. Snares, -12. And kick is -12. I especially like my kick to kick and snare to hit especially around the same level. So then typically what I start with is overheads. So let's find a section where, yeah, here it is. And then bring them up. There we go. Yeah, okay, that sounds fine. You know, sometimes if you do really good gain staging, that's what happens. You get a track where you don't really have to do anything. So let's do the rooms. It's weird. I'm hearing something funny there. Oh yeah, it's flipped. That's crazy. So we got a problem We got a problem already. You're hearing the hi-hat on my right side. Like I said, I like drummer's perspective. It should be on this side, so we're gonna flip that. I think it's mix tool. Yeah, mix tool. So we're gonna swap the channels. Yep. And there's a second problem that I picked up, which is if you can't hear it, the snare is a little bit off to this side too. Check it out. That's weird. Where's the ride section? I think right here. I'm gonna turn it. There we go. Let's hear a hi-hat part. See, you can still hear it on this side, but it's not as abrasive. See, that's too much. Right there, I think it's in the middle. I think we're okay here. So I swapped the channels. I kind of shifted them a little bit to the side, and we should be good now. So let's bring back this drum room. Okay, that works. So I'm usually just trying to just fill in the gaps, add some mid-range with the room mics, but I typically mix them pretty low, especially the mono ones. The mono ones I mix extra low because I don't want too much in my middle center of my stereo image. And then let's bring in the ride since we're already on a ride section. Cool. Let's check out a hi-hat section. Cool. Now, as the mix goes along, I do go back and rebalance slightly as I keep mixing. And I think drums are fine. Let's see. I can put this up a little bit more. Probably the ride too. Yeah, I'm cool with that. And I'm also adding a limiter to the overheads because when a drummer starts smacking the snare drum, see that? Here, I'll make it easier. I just want to chop that off without really affecting the cymbals. It's so that when I compress the cymbals, I ain't got to trip on it affecting my compressor in a way I don't want. So now that the drums are good, these. Let's go to bass. Typically, I like all my tracks hitting around -12, and then I like I said, I'll balance from there. Yeah, that works. Now with the bass, because I'm on headphones, granted, I am using SonarWorks in conjunction with one other plugin. This is something else. I don't want to get into it. I do have a bass boost on my headphones. You guys aren't hearing this. This is just going to me only, because the XG650s, you can't really hear sub lows very well. So I do have that boosted so I can hear what's going on down there. But I like to start from the top and then bring down the fader until I feel it's comfortable. Because I notice if I do it and I start from the bottom and then I try to bring up the bass, I always fucking undermix it. Like, always fucking undermix that shit. I don't understand why or what, but that's just the nature of it. Yeah, that works. Guitars, though, are a different story. That I will start from the bottom. We're gonna leave it there. It's a good starting point. Check out these leads. Yeah, okay, we're panning these inward. Like I said, guys, I'm a very simple mixer. I go in increments of 25 depending on the instrument. Yeah, that works for me. Sorry, I forgot to turn on the console emulation. I like mixing into them. That's why it's the last in the chain. Some people prefer to put them first. I like mixing into them. So continuing on with the balancing. Bring this down. Yeah, around 3 is good. Check out this bad boy here. I actually like that. That sounds good. All right, vocals. Now I'm just blazing through this. I spend a little more time on this balancing with the faders only part, but for the sake of this video, I'm just kind of going for speed here. Maybe it's a lesson though, because I like what I'm getting so far. To kind of maybe if I just go quicker, I don't need to spend as much time as I may have thought. So, anyways. Oh, gotcha. So is it the same thing? Yeah. So they recorded this twice because usually they do stuff like that when they record things twice over like this because the singer is weak. So if you don't know, the rule of threes, or I'm not sure of the actual rule, but I call it that, is every 6 decibels, it gets cut in volume by half or increased in volume by it's double. 6 down is half of it, and then if you increase it by 6 decibels, it basically doubles in volume. So that's why I'm doing 3 and 3, because it's like a quarter. You know, don't over. I'm not overthinking it. Don't overthink it yourself. Just -3 on both tracks because it's 2 of the same. And I like to hear the vocals slightly a bit under, because all the processing I add is going to make them sound louder than they are. Now that I'm thinking about it, maybe I should... I'm gonna add a bus for this channel here, and then just copy all the plugins I had. And then just process them as one track on this bus. Yeah, that sounds fine. Where are his... Here we are. Yeah, that's cool. Not too loud. Whoa, what's going on here? What's this? See, so now that I did all that, this is where I go back and just pick out inconsistencies and just fine tune. Like that leads too crazy. Yeah, see, the bass is a tad loud for me. I'll drop it about a dB. Okay, I'm happy with that. Like I said, as the mix goes on, I may fine tune the balance as more processing is being added. That is typically normal. I will do one more thing before I let you guys go, and is turn these off. Now, I did balance into these products. I like to do that, but I'm going to show you what typically would happen when I turn them off and on. But at this point is where I start to mix into my bus compression. So once I start to add processing to all my tracks, this is where I go and add some bus compression before all of that and mix into it. Now I have found there's different ways to set it. Now for extreme metal, my typical go-tos are auto release, and it's either going to be a 30 attack or 10 attack. Now 30 attack is going to let a lot of transient through. It's going to be super fucking punchy or whatever. However, I have found that I can't get the fucking snare ever to be controlled enough where it's not the loudest shit in the mix. So I usually start with a 10, and if it's too fucking squished, then I fucking go to a 30 millisecond attack. But typically I always tend to go to auto. If I want some super pumpy shit, I'll go to fastest release, but this plugin is really good. This is a solid state logic plugin that I got on sale last year on Black Friday for a bus compressor. So let's set that up. Gotta wait for everything to start playing together. Get a second. That's cool. Like 2 dB is like, that's cool with me, man. Man, Man, that bass is killing me. Hold up. All right, that's good. You can hear it. The snare comes through more on 30 milliseconds versus 10. It's extremely subtle. I actually still am going to keep the 10 milliseconds. And I mix into it till typically I'm hitting around 4 decibels of compression. Then typically I add my console saturation. I just leave it alone. I don't ever fuck with the drive, trim, none of that bullshit. It's instantiated and that's it. And then my tape. And pay attention to the way it sounds. 7.5 speed. Typically kind of rolls off the high end, but this is kind of a darker track, so I put it up on the faster speed to preserve some of it. But the low end kind of gets sucked off on 15. 7.5 tends to preserve a little bit more of the low end, but that's okay. It's metal. You want a tight low end anyways. Bias, I usually like a little bit, which means it's how it saturates. I like the bit of the crunch it adds. So this is off, and I'll show you how to turn it when it turns on. Now on. I mean, it just livens it up, man. So yeah, that's super dope. And then I have my limiter. I like mixing into a limiter because it allows me to hear what it would theoretically sound under limiting during a mastering stage. So I use FGX as my primary limiter. I have a little bit of dynamic perception because a limiter will kill some of the transient information. The ITP is the way it deals with clipping, and I always typically just leave it at 0.7 because it's fucking metal, and some clipping sounds good to me, and I leave it. And then I just turn up the gain until I am hitting around K14 on a K meter scale. If you're a newbie and you don't know what that is, just look up what K metering is. It's more correlated to how we actually hear shit with our human ear versus peak RMS, which is just, transient things. I could be mistaken, but I do know that K metering is exactly how I described it. And so they say that K14 is typically where a rock metal track would be sitting. See, the cool thing is that if I go to peak RMS, I'm more or less by like -6, with the highest peak being -3, which is kind of where you want it, more or less. Some guys like Mark Lewis mix really low. I don't remember specifically how low he gets, but it is really low, and I've tried it. And I could never get what I wanted out of my plugins by doing it that way. The gain staging when it's that low is too crazy for me. But anyways, I hope you guys really enjoyed my very convoluted part 1 of my mixing series, my new little attempt to come back at YouTube. So recap, we gated, we filtered, all the unnecessary junk we didn't need, and we balanced purely with faders. And then we added our master bus processing to be able to mix into it. If you have any questions, go ahead and comment below. Don't forget to like and subscribe. I would really appreciate it. I really want to grow this channel for you guys, and I really want to build a community for guitar players and mix engineers that were in my position when I first started, which is you didn't know a lot and you kind of had to learn everything on your own. And I kind of want to be the guy that you guys can rely on for reliable information. Yeah, so peace. Thanks for watching.